love it. I love it. I love it. Look at this. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Hey, I'm not surprised.
And welcome to, as always, special edition of the Dana White Contender Series breakdown here with UFC Addicts. My name is Aaron, and as always, I'm here with my co-host Layden, and we are here to break down the UFC Dana White Contender Series. There is no stream here. It is a breakdown. My name is Aaron. As always, I'm here with my co-host Layden, and we're here for episode 7 of season 3. What up, buddy?
What's up, bro? So anyone who didn't understand what Aaron was saying there, the last Contender Series video we done had about 1,000 views on Fight Night, but then it got 8,000 more views after that out of nowhere. So I'm assuming a lot of people heard about the flying knees on that card and tried to search it up, and they clicked on a prediction video rather than the actual fight. So if you're one of those people by chance, I'm sorry, but it is a prediction video. It does say that in the title. And yeah, we're here with another one.
They're not listening. Trust me. They just hit a dislike.
They clicked off straight away.
Yeah, but either way, I think it was just that we really analyzed those fights well and finally are getting the recognition we deserve. So, I mean, I at first thought, we'd have under 1,000 eyes on us, but looks like we have more eyes than I realized. So let's go ahead and break down this card. I didn't mean to rhyme there, but I did. So let's go ahead and break down this card. We got 5 fights here. I'm excited about a few of these guys. I'll point them out as we get to them. We're starting in the bantamweight division with a matchup between Dwight Joseph out of Team Alpha Male and Jay Perrin. I will be breaking down Dwight Joseph, the 29-year-old, 5'7", 135er, 9-1 overall, 3 TKOs, 3 submissions. He's on a 7-fight unbeaten streak with 6 wins over really no one of real note, and he had no contest in a fight that was stopped early, and it was stopped early due to lightning.
No, I saw that. That was funny.
Yeah, that's, I mean, I guess he was fighting outside, I would assume. He appears to be a pretty well-rounded type of wrestling type of guy. He has faced pretty inferior competition, and Jay Perrin is by far his biggest test to date. The guy he lost to was the guy that Dwight lost to was making his debut at the time, and that guy is now 4-6. So, I mean, Dwight Joseph, since then, he was originally on Nebraska. He has joined Team Alpha Male now. So, I don't really know what to think about that team at this point. It seems like some fights, that team being your team is a real advantage. Other fights, it seems not to be. So, I don't really know what Team Alpha Male or whatever they're called now. I think maybe they've changed the name again. But either way, I'm not really sure what that means. It's not what it used to mean, but still, being a smaller grappler, you can still find some good run there. Like I said, Jay Perrin seems to have faced better competition, and I think he has a lot of skills that match up closely with Dwight, but I think Dwight is going to use his reach and size appropriately and win this fight, and I'll say by decision. So I'll take Dwight Joseph by decision.
Nice. Nailed that one, in my opinion. Okay. Jay Perrin comes into this fight 8-3 as a pro. And just like you said, this is... Both guys mirror each other, like, pretty much. Jay Perrin looks to walk forward. He's quite measured on the feet, very patient until he ends up in the clinch. Looks for takedowns, try to subs you. Dwight Joseph, he does the same thing. He's looking to grapple you, but he's not patient on the feet. He just comes forward. He throws nasty hooks. Most of the time, they're just like hitting the guard. But still, he ends up in the clinch, gets on the mat, looks for the sub. So both guys are looking to do the same thing. But the difference would be Jay Perrin is measured, trying to do it, and Dwight Joseph is aggressive. The lightning fight was hilarious, by the way. I don't know if you saw it, Aaron, or just read the fact. Yeah, like after the fight, they were like putting a tent over the octagon, and then the announcer just announces to like 15 people, because we was midway through round 2, we're gonna give Dwight Joseph the win, and like 4 people start jumping up and down. That was hilarious. But But yeah, for the most part, man, I agree with everything you've said. Both guys are trying to do the same thing. So yeah, I agree with you, but I'm going to take Jay Perrin. I think the measured approach looks a little bit better than the aggressive approach. So that's the only disagreement I have with you on this fight. So I'm going to take Jay Perrin via decision.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I would anticipate Dwight Joseph being out of the larger camp will be the favorite and being the more impressive looking of the two. Mm-hmm. But we'll see. I mean, Jay Perrin's fought in Bellator a few times, although being on the undercard, so they let anybody fight on the undercard in Bellator, in all honesty. But either way, should be a good one at 135. So want to move us on to number 2? Yes. I think one of the better fights of the night.
Yeah, this is a decent one. Interesting too. We have Andrea Muniz, I believe, versus Taylor Johnson.
Just Andre.
Oh, is it Andre?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, I'll be breaking down Taylor Johnson. Before I start, I want to say Taylor Johnson 5-0, and his opponent has 21, 22 professional fights. So looking at that, that's a little bit unfair. But both guys have, different styles. Taylor Johnson is, from what I see, an absolute powerhouse. He's using his wrestling in every fight. He's looking to take you down and pound you out. Now, your guy is a jiu-jitsu guy. He's had many fights. So, I believe it's unfair to put a guy 5-0 up against a guy who's had like 22 pro fights. But when I smoked like a big blunt and started to think about it, like, why are they being unfair here? And it made a little bit of sense to me, because if Taylor Johnson takes down Muniz and pounds him out, that proves to Dana straight off the bat, look, I can deal with jiu-jitsu guys. I'm not just this guy who's pounding out nobodies. I can deal with jiu-jitsu guys. And if Muniz subs him, he proves to Dana straight off the bat, look, I'm not just subbing, anyone. I'm subbing powerful wrestlers too. So if you put me up against a guy who's just a striker, I have a very, very good chance on the ground. So I'm looking at this fight like whoever wins this and looks impressive really makes a statement as to why they should be in the UFC. So from that aspect, it's quite smart of Dana, but at the same time, a little bit unfair on Taylor Johnson. But I have been very impressed with Taylor Johnson, and I'm going to take him to be the more powerful guy here, get the takedown, and pound out Muniz. So I'll take Taylor Johnson via TKO in round number 1.
All right, I will be breaking down Andre Muniz, also known as Sergiopano. That's his jiu-jitsu name, so I will be calling him Sergiopano because I like that a lot. 29-year-old, 6'2", 185er, 17-4, as you said, or as you mentioned, with the experience, 2 TKOs, 9 submissions. He fought on Dana White's Contender Series Brazil, getting a pretty dominant decision using his wrestling. That was about this time last year. It was his last fight he's had, so I assume he's maybe been off with injuries or waiting for an appearance to make him in the octagon. I'm not sure, but he's definitely a world-class grappler. I think, honestly, he could already be in the UFC. I wouldn't see an issue with it. I think that overall, guys who have 20-plus fights have done pretty well in this season of the Contender Series, and probably before as well. I'd have to look, but I know this season, the only guy I can think of who had 20-plus fights who didn't win was that Zane guy, but who faced a pretty good wrestler himself. But another thing about Muniz, or Sergiopano, that's kind of funny is his last loss was in the United Caucasian Fighting Championships. So, yeah, interesting name for a fighting championship. I do forget Caucasia is an actual area, but it's kind of funny that it's just like the United White Fighting Championship, basically. I found that funny. But back to the fight. He's had, with Sergiopano, he's had some armbar and triangle finishes in his career. And the reason I point that out is he's facing a very powerful wrestler in Johnson. And at some point, Johnson's going to look to take him down. And I'll be interested to see if Sergio kind of goes with the takedown a little bit, allows it to get down there if he tries to fight it, and what he does. So far, Johnson's done the same thing in all 3 of his LFA fights, and they've all lasted about 2 minutes or less. He's wrestled and used ground and pound. So he hasn't fought great competition, and Sergio Pano has. I think with Sergio Pano, if he weathers an early storm, we have a really good fight here. I don't think that if he gets out of the first round, that means it's over for Johnson. I actually look for this to be pretty back and forth, though, and I will take Johnson, but I'll take Taylor Johnson for a round 2 TKO. So
nice.
Getting pushed a little more than usual, and I think that will be a good thing. And also him fighting a guy that's 17-4. When he's in the UFC, he's not going to be fighting guys who are 6-0 for the most part. He's not going to be fighting guys with 9 fights. He's going to be fighting guys with a lot of experience. So I think he should be able to pass this test, but the longer this fight goes, the more dicey it gets for someone like Taylor Johnson, who's been able to dominate so far. So we're going to agree. I will say around 2 TKO, and I'd anticipate Johnson being one of the heavier favorites on the card.
Nice. Perfect. Okay.
So,
moving on.
Good fight, though.
Yep. Moving on into the third one. We have Herbert Burns versus Darrick Minner, and I'll be breaking down Darrick. Comes into this fight 22 wins, 9 losses. So it's fair to say he's a veteran of the sport. You know, 95% of his wins are submissions. He's looking to take you down, make you work, and eventually choke you. Herbert Burns, also a jiu-jitsu guy. I've seen some very nice tape of him in jiu-jitsu competitions. Brother of Gilbert Burns. So both of them are fighting very close to each other, which is pretty cool. So yeah, this is a decent matchup. Both guys have decent jiu-jitsu. I believe Burns has better jiu-jitsu. If the fight's on the feet, I was quite impressed with watching tape on Burns, man. He has very, very fast body kicks, calf kicks. Looks pretty decent on the feet. So yeah, this is a decent fight. And I think the factor is Minner looks tired after the first round. And Burns looks pretty okay come the third round. So maybe the conditioning will show when these guys grapple. So I'm going to take Burns by submission in round number 2.
Okay. I will be breaking down the Blaze Herbert Burns, 31-year-old, 5'9", 145er, the younger brother of Gilbert Burns, 8-2 overall, 5 submissions. In those 8 wins, most of his fights have come under the ONE FC banner. So I'm a little surprised ONE FC let him go, to be honest. He's got some really good wins throughout his career there. He beat Timothy Natsukin, the guy who just broke Eddie Alvarez's eyeball. Edward Kelly, another good guy over at ONE FC. Both of his losses were to good guys also, including Mavid Kabulov, which if you've been watching this season of PFL, he's currently I believe the 1 seed in the 145 playoffs coming up. He had that 8-second KO of Damon Jackson where he turned Damon Jackson into Pez. So Burns has been in there with a really
like
good. He's
14-0 now, that Russian guy.
Yeah.
Correct. Very impressive.
Yeah, 15 and I believe 15-0 now. So and Burns is definitely a grappler. He's been pretty effective doing so. He does remind me a lot of his brother, and I think he's going to go in there and look to overwhelm and be successful and get the sub in round 1. So
nice.
I'll take Herbert to get the sub in round 1. I feel like this guy is very, very UFC caliber, and I think the guy he's facing is a guy, with all due respect, if you lose to him, you're not. If he win, if you lose, I get he does have 30 fights to 10, so that is definitely worth noting here. But again, so we'll see. I think that one or both of these guys with 20 plus fights is gonna have a hard night, though. So I'll take Burns. I think either Burns or Johnson will be the largest favorite on this card. So
nice.
We'll see.
And just to go back to your point before we move on, Darrick Minner, 2 guys that he lost to, Luke Sanders and Jordan Griffin. So that backs up your point, man. If you can beat this guy convincingly, you're UFC caliber, and if you lose to him, you're losing to a veteran who's not good enough for the highest level, who's just going to keep going. He's 22-9, not the best record, but nowhere near the worst. So he's a stepping stone. So if Burns can get the sub, definitely getting a contract.
Yeah, and I think one other thing to note is that I think most likely ONE FC wanted to keep Burns, I would imagine, with his performances in ONE FC and his having a decent name and everything. So for Burns to, what I would assume, turn down a contract with ONE FC and then take a shot at the Contender Series to get into the octagon, he may really want to get in there and want to get in there soon. So everybody in there is hungry, but I think Burns, preparing with his brother who also fights this upcoming weekend, that camp's got to be on fire. That's ATT, I believe, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Yeah, so, I mean, that camp's always in rhythm, but, I mean, the two brothers fighting in the same week, I've got to imagine that's to the benefit of both of them. So
at least one Burns has to win. At least one.
Well, yeah, and this is the one that's going to have to win, I think, in my opinion. All right, I will lead us into our favorite fight of the night, the female fight. And this is between Marilla Chocolate Santos, but she goes by Marilla Chocolate. And yeah, I'm not making this up. I just do the reporting on the facts here, and this is at what, 125?
Correct.
Okay. So we have Marilla Chocolate Santos, and you will be breaking down Lucerezia Rhea. Last time I have to say that, I will be breaking down Chocolate. So a little bit about her, and there's an emphasis on little here because she had no tape on her, and she hasn't fought in over a year. She's 10-2. She hasn't fought since almost a year. She hasn't fought since November of 2018. She has a KO loss to Weili Zhang. Her fight with Zhang was wild while it lasted, and she actually hurt Zhang quite a few times in that fight. But Zhang obviously was able to control her and ended up putting her out with ground and pound. She threw a lot of offense in that fight, got up from takedowns. It seems that with Marilla Chocolate, aggressiveness is her key to victory. Like I said, she hasn't fought in about a year. She's facing another unknown Italian. I think that the small cage could favor Santos's aggression, and I think she'll be physically a little stronger. So this is a guess, but I'll take Santos by decision.
Nice. Okay. Rhea comes into this fight 7-2 as a pro. Her best competition, arguably her debut, which was against Mara Barella, who we just saw like 2 days ago. Yeah, this is a tough one, man. Women's MMA isn't my strong point. If you've been listening to the podcast for like more than like 5 or 6 weeks, you'll know women's MMA isn't my strong point. So yeah, Rhea, her judo, it looks like she uses a lot of judo. Gets it to the mat in the clinch, looks to try and sub you. Quite tall, quite rangy. But Santos, man, I did see that Weili Zhang fight, and she definitely stunned Zhang at the end of round 1. I saw that. That was impressive. Who was the other girl she lost to?
I'll check for you real quick.
I believe it was the Brazilian girl, that Silva, who had a very impressive debut against Gillian Robertson. I could be wrong.
Buenos. Yeah, Myra Buenos Silva.
That's it. Yeah, she lost to her too.
Right.
So, two girls that she's lost to are very, decent in my opinion. Santos, she kind of looked like the Brazilian version of Angela Hill. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Probably a good thing if you're on the Contender Series. Maybe not the best thing you want to be compared to if you're actually in the UFC.
Yeah, well, you don't want Angela Hill's career in the UFC for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a guess. It's a guess. But if I had to put out a factor, I'd say Santos is pretty heavy and looks quite strong. So maybe she cancels out the judo of Rhea and is able to score with strikes. So yeah, mine's a guess too, but I'll take Santos via decision.
All right, fair enough. Moving on. We're moving on to the main event of the evening, or what it is as of now. So far, it seems like most of these cards, they decide the main event the day of the fight. So this is the main event according to Tapology. It's between Omar Morales and Harvey Park, I believe, right? Harvey Park or Henry Park?
Harvey Park, mate.
Harvey Park. I just wanted to make sure I'm actually a big fan of his. So Omar Morales is who I'll be breaking down. The 33-year-old 5'10", 155er is 7-0. The Venezuelan so far has looked to be a pretty smooth striker, throwing nice kicks, long punches. He has a really nice right hand. Good ground game as well. Switches his stance at times with his kicks, particularly. I am definitely more familiar with his opponent, Park, and I do think we're in for a really good fight here. Park really wants it to kind of be dirty in the clinch, drag down to later rounds, I think. He does have striking power also, but I think Morales is the one who's going to be looking to finish early more. So I think that if it gets to the second round is going to be very key to this fight. I think either one could finish in that round, but whoever wins the second round ends up going on to, I think, get a finish sometime in the third round, and I think that will be Park. So I think Park's experience and his rhythm are the keys here, and his overall ability to mix it up a little more than Morales, and Park gets a round 3 TKO in my book.
Nice. Okay. Harvey Park comes into this fight 12-2 as a pro. He became the 155 champion in LFA before he got this opportunity to fight on the Contender series. I believe he was actually an underdog in all 4 of his LFA fights. I could be wrong, it could be like 3, but I'm pretty sure he was an underdog in all 4 LFA fights, which is pretty surprising. Yeah, I pretty much agree with your breakdown, man. Omar is pretty aggressive. Harvey Park probably more well-rounded. Has knockout power as well. He waits for the right time and very accurate with his strikes, man. Like, he has some serious power. And, you know, he just hits the right spot. Omar, his opponent's records, man, just terrible. Like, pretty much all of his opponents, padded record. So, yeah, 7-0 versus 12-2. It's a decent fight because Omar is really aggressive. And like I said, that could be down to the opponents just not being great or anywhere near decent. It sounds like trashy coming from like just some random person making predictions. I'm sure a couple or probably all of his opponents could have a good fight with me, but when you're looking at it and in a light that we're looking for good guys in this sport, and you look at his opponents and it's not impressive. But he's doing the same thing every fight. He's being very aggressive. And Harvey Park is very measured. He waits and waits for that opportunity to land a heavy strike, and he's very accurate with that timing. So, I would want this to be the main event because this just seems like something bad is going to happen. Someone's going to get hurt in this one, and I'm going to say it's over in the first round, mate. I'm gonna agree with you though. I'm going to take Harvey Park to land a hard strike in round 1 and get the TKO.
Nice. Yeah, LFA champions, another thing they have to be doing very well in the Contender series. Giles was an LFA champion. Allen was an LFA champion. Now we'll see how Mr. Park does. I think we've had a few other LFA champions who've ended up moving forward. LFA is definitely one of the organizations I hope that fans of this series are taking time to watch as a result of seeing this. So either way, I honestly think this is the best set of fights so far.
I'm looking forward to it, mate. I'm buzzing for it.
I think 4 of the 5 I'm excited for, and the female fight's a female fight.
Yeah, okay.
The female fight's a female fight. I won't beat around the bush.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, that's bad.
Oh.
That's bad. On that note, enjoy the fights, everybody. Fight of the night for me is Taylor Johnson versus Sergio Pano.
I agree. That should probably be the main event as well.
I think any of the other three of the four could really be the main event. But enjoy the fights, everybody. Thank you for listening. If you were here for the stream and you're still waiting for that stream, thanks for listening, but there's no stream here. Peace out.
Appreciate you guys. Peace.